Okay. Had a nice little pop off the bottom there. We have some news coming out soon. "30 minutes after the open. We are up on an eval 150K and paid as well. So we're good in the hood. No pressure to trade. So on that note, we will leave it open for you and just play some Castlevania Symphony of the Night. ES still has some targets up above. Let me make sure that's correct. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let me get some coffee. Okay. Let's just check up on the audio. Test, test. Mic check. All right, working good. Okay. And okay. We got 280 resting orders at 59.10 and 192 at 59.9. They're just moving those 277 down a little bit. So starting to get some algorithmic activation up above. Yes. I could power level off those guys. Wow, that does a lot of XP. Okay, found that place. Okay, let me switch back out of full screen for that, and then I'm just power leveling while I wait for the market. Let's see. So what type of questions did you have? Just ask. Uh-huh. Yeah. So these orders on Bookmap all make Bookmap temporarily bigger, right? Okay. So basically when a party enters a trade, you can see this red bar up above here. So as we came out of 58.77, there was some resting orders here defending this buy up, but then also there's a stop loss of some red orders up here. The it's color weighted, so the more orders, the thicker color red it will be. It's a heat map, so yeah. And then so there's like targets that they aim at where, like, for example, back here it started to feign that it was going to go up, and then it created this stacked liquidity down here, as those were the stop losses of the longs that were coming up here, and then they came down and hit them, and then consolidated a little bit more, generated some stop losses, hit those, and then the real players shifted it out, and they had a hard defense zone here, and then they started to attack the buy side. You call this buy side because the sellers, the people that think that it's going down, end up having to buy as a forced liquidation. And so they would have to buy, they would buy the top, and then that's who they sell to. And so now you have these resting orders up here at 59.05, and there's another laddered one down here, 292 at 58.77. But you can see how this like pepper looking thing is like moving. So there's this algorithm that was activated at the turn of the hour 25 minutes ago, and you see this heavy player playing with 277 contracts on either end. So they're like laddering price and kind of causing it to move in the manner they like. And yeah, they're putting 277 on either side. So you can see when big players, algorithms, or their high frequency trading bots get activated, because that player was not there before the turn of the hour. So what does that mean? I don't know, but you just watch it develop. And then as you watch it develop, you see resting orders that stay resting above, meaning it doesn't change. Like this band of 100 at 59.10 is in there since about 2 hours ago. So that's a short stop loss up there at 59.10, that if they come back and clear that, that could be potentially a target. And yeah, and then they have the same thing down below. You look for the longer the liquidity has been there, the more likely it is a stop loss. And then you can contextualize it based off where they enter, where they would be underwater. So this guy entered along about an hour and a half ago, or no, sorry, 2 hours ago nearly. And then their stop loss is 41 contracts down at 58.65, but they're currently in profit. So it's not back where their entry was just yet. But when it starts to go against them, then that would be your target if that's what's going to occur. So it's kind of if then statements. Like if it puts some of these resting orders of shorts, you could see they entered around here 2 hours ago, and they're still currently underwater. So still that 59.05 is feasibly on the table. And you have some stacked orders, meaning like you have 189 at 59.01, you have 279 at 59.02, and then that resting order at 121 at 59.05. The algorithmic 294 player is playing some games right now, so I don't know which side they want it on because they're putting even contracts on both sides right now. And yeah, that's kind of how I use the resting orders for that. And if you had a toss will have that available on the depth of market button down here. Let me turn this off really quick. Hold up. So the depth of market. Okay. So yeah, it should have a button on a toss where it has DOM Trader, and if you click that and you're on Windows, it will have a heat map function, and it will populate the heat map on either side, just like Bookmap. The problem is I'm doing it on Mac. I have a Mac Studio, really fast computer, but not really compatible with the software. So I'm using Parallels on Mac. So I don't see how it says you need OpenGL. I don't have that, so it doesn't populate or look cool. So I bought Bookmap to bottom right of Atos. There's a DOM Trader button down on Atos bottom right, and then you click that, and then it will open up this mode that you can make bigger, and it will show you all the bubbles of who's getting hit for how many buys and sells and whatnot. And then it will also put your data in here of these resting orders of Bookmap in here from what I've seen in tutorials, but I can't get it working because I'm on Parallels. So I got Bookmap Lifetime Plus and Global Plus to cover that base. So that's why it's on the right side here, because that's where it would be on the DOM Trader thing. DOM stuff is normally on the right. They call it depth of market. So that's what DOM means. So the depth of market data is on my right. Then you have like TO's kind of like tick chart with the comma and the Bollinger Band and all that stuff. And then over here on the left, you have the footprints. And right now we just had 210 aggressive sellers hit as we pulled back here to the volume point of control. So these sellers, that's what I like to see for a long continuation idea. I like, first of all, we have 2K in, if you look bottom left, it says session negative 2K, negative 2K, negative 2K. That's how aggressive the delta has been. And if it's negative, it means sellers are aggressive. So the negative 2K in seller aggression has been this entire day. So this entire day we've been selling off or attempting to sell off, and we have maintained this region. So I went long around this manipulation kind of drop in London, and then it came back up, and then I got the retest out of here, and then I flattened as we broke the range. And yeah, so I was in, that's the account, the PA on the Apex for the proof in the pudding. And then like also I took like a eval on Top Step with the this was a 150K one. But yeah, anyway, like I was seeing it come back above this cloud on my other indicator as well, which is volumetric. And then I was like, okay, we could target the daily open or something. So, but anyway, like now we're starting to come back and hit some sellers. So realistically, if there's no continuation and this seller that I'm going to circle gets punished, then we could use that as fuel to the upside. So that's why I use the term like, who is the aggressor and are they rewarded or punished for that aggression? So this 210 seller, is it a shorter or is it a stopped out buyer from up top here? It doesn't really matter. It's the context of what happens from that aggression. So if there's follow through, the seller is in control still. But if it bounces off this carcass of this supposed stopped out long, then the sellers are waning, or there's a passive whale buying. And that's why I draw this guy, whoops, like this, like he's kind of absorbing the sellers. They call it seller absorption, because there's, in any aggressive party, there's a passive party on the other end. There's always a buyer and there's always a seller, and the aggressive seller will be bought by passive buyers, which are limit buys, and they don't have as much fee. So the whale wants to get the lowest price and the lowest cost to open the trade, so they use the aggressive seller of a liquidation to get in. And so at the bottom, you'll see a lot more sellers before it reverses. And you'll be like, okay, this candle, this 2000 trade candle drop was 473 in a seller delta, and that one particular player was 210 sells. And so that character, whether they're short opening at the bottom or a long getting stopped out, again, doesn't matter. It's what happens there after it hits. And since it bounced off them, you could feasibly say that's enough for me. Like, we hit 473, we're 2K negative, and we're kind of holding this range. So I'm kind of biased for long, so I'm going to get in off that dead guy. And then you long, and you could be up in profit feasibly. And I've done that time and time again. Like here, I had the opposite. In London, I watched it come down here and manipulate, and then I saw this character buy at the volume point of control. And when it came above, after manipulating lower, it showed he was in control. So I was like, I'll go alongside with this buyer. And then it went, and then I took my profits at the top, at the value area high. So yeah, I saw us like pull back into some sell side. There was 58 player here that sold. And then I waited and waited for it to come back to here. And then I took the long up. So there's opportunities all over the place, and then you just see those big players. And then so the book map tells you where somebody could potentially get liquidated, and then the footprints tell you if it actually happened or not, because as you can see, that algorithm guy kind of like moving his like orders up and down with the peppering of the zone or whatever. That guy is moving it, so it's not resting. So that's what you call spoofing, because he's kind of marionette stringing it up and down, trying to find a trapped player to liquidate. So yeah, you want to see who's like stuck, and then that becomes the target. And then the more that are stuck in a trend that are not moving, and then they're stacked, you're like, okay, this whole range could be taken, kind of thing. And then you see which one has more or less, which side has more. It's like a tug of war, and then the tug of war with more liquidity is the one who pulls the price towards them and loses. So in tug of war, you pull the rope towards you to win, but in this case, the majority lose. So that's kind of like, it was years and years and years of kind of like, I'd draw patterns, and then the patterns would fail and hit your stop loss, and then only to reverse at your stop loss. And then you're like, well, how does it know where the stop loss is? And you think the market's out to get you, but no, it's like it's generating stop losses. It's like Pac-Man creating like pellets to eat and then it goes and eats them and goes the other way. And that's why it's as irrational as people can be. So people generate the ripples, and then that's why this seller, this 200 seller, is causing like a bounce, because they don't have to pay along anymore, so now they can drift up to find some buyers at the top. And it's just fascinating. Like, it's counterintuitive because you think like a buyer is pushing it up, and they are, but they're just not showing themselves. That's why I use the whale thing. He's like waiting below the price and letting the fish swim around in the middle, and then they swoop it down and fill their order. Yeah, no worries. That's what I'm here to do. I've been a teacher for 20 plus years, so my what do you call it? My goal or mission is to make things clear. So that's why I try to create it in a way where I can see where the resting orders, and I like make the time frame big enough where I can see like an overall narrative playing out. And okay, like if it goes down, where is it going to eat? And if it's going up, where is it going to eat? And which one has more? And it kind of like gives a temporary bias, if you will. And it doesn't always go exactly there. Like eventually, just like this back here when it popped up, the people that are expecting it to go up or manipulating it to go up, whatever, however you look at it, they're putting their buy orders like as protection. So there's like areas where it won't sweep because that's a protected zone that they're defending. So there's like defended zones and swept zones, and that's when you hear like they sweep the liquidity, they sweep it up, and then or sweep it down. And so that's what liquidity sweeps are. But yeah. Right here, dead center, hold on. So this is showing the volume point of control for the day. So you have VAH, value area high, volume point of control. That means where the most volume is traded. You can see all this blue. That means the total volume, number of trades. So the volume point of control is where the most had been generated. So when it comes above volume point of control, you could feasibly long it, and below you could short it. And it's changing depending on the number of trades taken there. But generally that's, and then VAL is value area low. So there's different theories, like you could long as it comes back into value area low, and then, you know, you could short as it drops below value area high, and then there's, you know, all sorts of like range trading strategies within the volume point of control. And then here I'll just turn off my indicators to just make it clearer, but basically I look at all these volume points of control from the past and I label them on my chart. So I have all of the volume points of control from all the previous days of this year. So we came down to May 22nd's volume point of control, slightly below that, came back above it, and then we kind of flipped it into support. So, and then there's a lot more up above here, but there's reactions, and that's why I call them key levels, because the volume points of control are where it rejects and bounces. And then the more they consolidate volume points of control in that area, the more like it's showing a grander narrative of possible bearishness, the more that it gets accepted below these levels. So, yeah. But he has some different context. I'm not, that's not something I use or trade, and I only heard about it recently, so I can't speak as an authority on it. But I think it has to do with the open. So where the daily opens to open itself, like kind of the volume within this range. And in order to do that, there's a indicator that's free called the fixed range volume profile. In TradingView, it's here under volume based indicators. And so you take the daily open, which is here from Asia, and then you drag it to like an hour before. I think it's just like an hour before open, and it's 40% of that. So it's slightly different. Like if I use TPO, it's going to be similar, but it's going to constantly add to it after the open. Whereas like I think they're talking about like a fixed range within a certain time frame from the open to what is it? I don't know exactly, but it's the open, it's the Asia open until New York open, and then they don't add it after that. Whereas a volume point of control indicator is always updating constantly. So I think they're just using the fixed range from the open to New York open, and then 40% of that, if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't back tested it, but it sounds like they have another thing. And there's a thing called TPO, which is called time price opportunity, which does the time point of control and the volume point of control. So you can juxtapose where we spent the most time versus where the most volume was traded. And sometimes, like, for example, the time point of control on the 29th was up here at 21,791, but the most volume was down here at 21,396. So we spent the most time up above price, but then we had the most volume below price. So that means what? Were people establishing shorts up there and secretly, getting out down here, or reaccumulating for another leg up, or what? Like there's different things metrics you can juxtapose with time. I haven't found correlations necessarily with that, but I do note when the time point of control and the volume point of control are different. And that's one cool thing with TradingView, is that it'll do it by the daily profile for you. So that's where I get my volume points of control over here as my key levels. I can just draw a horizontal ray and label it. And then I don't need this on all the time because I already know where that day's volume point of control was, and I label it May 28th. And that was where you had 2 days, like the 19th and the 28th. So there's going to be some violence at those levels because they overlap. Yeah, there's endless things to do and look at, but one thing I've found with volume points of control is like I don't do anything until there's a key level. So like here we hit this key level, and then when we held it over here, I was like, okay, now I can start thinking about longing, because we did the 2K sell side hit with no follow through, and then I started to look at the key level as flipping into support. So if there's all this area in between, that's kind of like, for me, no man's land, unless it's like you're looking at the Monday's mid-level or something like that. But for the most part, like I look for overlap. It's all about like confluence or whatever. So you're trying to look for things to align, like planets and stars to align for it to all make sense as evidence lines up, The more evidence, the better. Right. Right. So that's where I started like collecting all of the different facets so that I need to see some sell side hit, like that 200 character down here, and then it has to also be a key level and or like a Fibonacci retrace or top of the zone. It kissed off the volume point of control, and it's like, okay, good enough for me. 3 out of 8 or 4 out of 8, like, and then create like yourself a checklist. I have some, like, I had some entry checklists for certain mathematical stuff and gaps and stuff, like this type of shape where you break out and then you retest and you come out. This is just like an inverted head and shoulders, and essentially it's this thing here. I'll just put it, it's this right here, the model 1, where you're, you know, breaking out, retest, gone. And then so you have this liquidity grab, and then did it have a liquidity grab, and then these checklists of material or whatever, like that is one thing to, like, in the beginning anyway, until you get trained to recognize it. Without it, I would like have it printed on your desk, and like I could put that in the chat. Hold up. My voice is glitching out. No! Let me fix it. I see. Hold up. Let me... Where is that entry? Okay. This... There you go. Boop, boop, boop. But that's essentially what we just experienced, was this head, inverse head and shoulders, and then we probably retraced into like a 618 level and then bounced out. And let's see, where is my audio? Let's reset that. Test. Test. Okay, should be good now, I hope. Let's go test the YouTube real quick. Okay, it worked. Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Okay, so we got that. I think we can turn. So that's a pretty decent pullback. Let's see what the volume is looking like. So we had another 100 seller up at 284. And this is why I look at ES too, because ES stacks liquidity more than NQ, so it can kind of telegraph something sometimes better than NQ does, because NQ is like sparsely populated, and hence why it's so volatile. It basically mirrors what ES is doing. So I just look at ES and see what ES wants to do, and then kind of like get my narrative for an NQ from that. It's pretty violent on that pop up, though. That was a nice pop up from those 200 contracts. How many points was that? That was like 50 points. Let's see. We got the turn of the hour in 8 minutes. We also have news 30 minutes after the open, so it should be interesting leading into that. Interesting. Yeah, the YouTube, I don't know how to speed up milliseconds and stuff. Japan has like a limited, what do you call it? Internet bandwidth, and the building I live in, I own the place, but it's yeah, the cable is slow, so I have like a wireless hub through a provider. It's better, but I have to stream at lower quality to get without getting delays. And then if my wife is playing Nintendo Switch, it slows it down. I like your name, comma bounce. It makes sense because it's true. Yo, what's up? Nice. Yeah, your headphones or your mic quality's better today. I took that like bounce out after that manipulation London liquidity grab. So I'm chilling on the apex, and I'm pretty good on the top step eval. I don't feel the pressure to trade it, but if I could pass it today, that would be nice. Oh my god. Welcome to the party, pal. I wish I could code like on the level you can. Like it takes a lot for me to get the theories sorted out because I wasn't doing that as a profession. That's true. The whole 10,000 hours. What is love, love, baby, don't hurt me. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. They want people to get American USD, I guess. Whatever happened with that? Like, did they just auction them off or something? Central. Yeah, when I worked when I worked at the Bank of America, they were super predatory on overdraft fees and upselling the customer into credit cards and stuff. And they gave you these points from this catalog to like buy like trips and Sony Wega for like customer service and all those like quotas and whatnot. When I was like 18 to 22, it's like 4 years. I was like the youngest one there. They had a good tuition reimbursement thing, so it helped pay for school. Yeah, they were pretty good. If you as long as you passed your classes, they'd pay like 40%. Yeah, ridiculous, right? Yeah, they were really friendly to students. Dude, that's yeah. They do your ankles. They had some dude throw like Molotovs. Did you see that? Yeah. They must have some dirt on a lot of people. And Operation Spiderweb. You see that too? Some drones took out a bunch of Russian planes. Also, he doesn't have to have an election, and if it's in that state. We recovered that volume imbalance right around VWAP. And there's 111 sellers at 283 stacked with the 200 at 244 that could be punished. Just to be aware. We've had 2K in sell side aggression, and we basically come back on all of the volume for today. So the sellers haven't really expressed themselves so strongly yet. Daily open at 304, not that far away. Yearly open, where we're at. Ribbit. AI. Recently, I've been getting hit. Yeah, we're kind of diddling in the middle right now. ES had just a moment. They telegraphed like 600 contracts split up at 5905 and 5910. There's two laddered orders up above trying to gravitate it up. There's some resting liquidity up there at 5910 to the tune of like 100. I think they're aiming at that, but 5910. Again, the daily open on NQ is at 304. It's also coinciding with 2 volume points of control. We got that red folder 30 minutes after open too. What was it? PMI? Yeah, or CPI or PPI. When I watch that occur, it's so weird. Like, there's literally nothing inside the candles that is jittering around. It just does it. AI. It's like just talk in circles. I was never really into beer that much. The Irish in me, it would never kick in. Yeah, I was into like in Japan anyway, they always gave me like shochu, which is like rice wine or whatever. That was pretty good. The shochu was a really like clean, as clean as alcohol can be. Like tequila would make me kind of aggressive or whatever, and like and then the next day was kind of terrible. But like shochu was like this. It had a nice taste and like I don't know. It had a pretty decent hangover considering. Right. If you ever see like Japanese emo shochu, it's pretty good. It's emo is potato. It's like a potato wine. Doo, 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 doo. Mm, 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 mm. That Maboroshi one's pretty good. Did you see his head explode? No. So generating more sell side, 3K on the session for sell side. I just want to see some decent sell side hit, and then I don't know. I think it might go clear out the settlement and the open and the gap at some point, perhaps. But I don't know. I don't know. Take it as it comes. Okay, we are almost at the open. GDMFSOP. And Open. Punishing the sellers right off the open. Wow. Settlement at 376, so that could be. Previous high at 433.50. Nice. It's a pretty massive 10-minute boner candle. Hit about 800 in sell side with the pullback. Also, the previous week mid level from last week. Nice. I'm on an eval, but I'm on a 10 micros, basically a mini, but not in profit yet. I'm at 431. Holding the super trend on the 30-second at the previous week mid. Do we sweep this Monday high and the volume points of control up above at 466 or not? Should I buy or should I sell? It's going to stop me at just below the wick. And stopped. Somebody just went short 103 contracts at 386. Another 60 added at 379. There's another 66 seller at 375. Another 65 at 385. They're pulling back on this group of sellers here. Could be a slingshot. You created 3 volume imbalances on the way down. Another 58 seller at 377.
we hit that volume imbalance as the way up. Yeah, it's looking like you got that reaction of the volume imbalance. For sure. There's 172 buyer that just bought at 244. A 67 seller at 255. We just hit a volume imbalance. If we continue to the downside, this would be where we do it, or if we rip up higher, there's that 330 zone is the next volume imbalance. That 172 buyer is in control right now. I longed it at 258. My stop's at break even because this is too volatile. I don't need my ass pucker. If it goes up, nothing really in these candles. It's sparse on like that 172 character was. This is like a stop hunt to cannibalize the shorts. VWAP at 300. I'm trading the bottom of this wick at 280. This one's come back and stop me. stopped in profit. So the VWAP at 300, we had a rejection. Still nothing being hit. So we came back to those volume reversal zones. The next volume level, this looks like it could be some higher absorption though. You're getting a lot of blue with no follow through. Yeah. Another blue buyer, 45 buyer at 270. Maybe it was that 170 character padding. I don't know. If it Oh yeah. Fish. Holy forkin' shirt balls. You ever watch The Good Place? It gets good after like a few seasons. $72. 74 seller entered at 309, currently getting punished. We just recovered that volume imbalance up top at 324 where we're at. $119 seller at 320. Yeah. Yeah, he like froze at that 320 seller, dude. Yeah, it's like when it's sparse, like when the order book's thin, they can just like there's all this unfinished business inside and it just goes wherever it wants. Kind of, yeah. But that's what it looks like on like CPI and PPI, but it does that in like 1 second. If it comes up on this 113, 320 guy, it could slingshot up to the upside. I took it long on my apex at 311. If it gets to 330, then I'm taking profit. Yeah, it's snapping back though, it's really snappy. It's not staying above 320, I'm not liking it. I like it too. Needs to go above 320 for me to feel happy about this. It's not doing it. Yeah. volume point control has moved up to 310. It's right near the value area high, so it's like the value area high and the volume point of control is like right next to one another. That's weird. Oh shit, it was on the sin, not my apex. Hold up, let me close this. Well, at least it gives me a chance to think about this as it comes above 320. I'll close it. Alright, we'll take it. We will take it. I took it again. I'm up 34 ticks. Let's do it. This time, it's okay. Alright. It's still jittery. Pulls back open. It's coming above 320. Come on, stay above it. Yes, sir. 335 is my target. That's all I need. It's holding that 320 though, sellers, but trying the damnedest. There's 85 at 59.90 for, at 5900 for ES, and then another 113 at 59.5. That's about the only nearby large liquidity, but they could be defenders of the short. Defenders of the short. Come stay over that 320 character, my friends. If you could be so kind. There we go. Boom. Now my stop's at break even at 316. Peeled one off. I'm up like a grand. Here's the proof of the pudding. It was iffy for a second. I took it preemptively above the below 320, so that was my fault. That stopped the runner. But that's the theory of, like, you know, seeing a player get punished. Like, they rewarded him slightly, came off the VWAP, and then flirted with, like, his entry. So I was like, alright, if you're gonna flirt with his entry, I'll take that. Even if it goes back in his favor. I can be wrong and right at the same time. It looked strong in the moment, and then that was all that mattered. And it may still be right. This could be the spook out. your expectancies. That was a balance off the daily open too. That's true. So the theory of punishing that 100 purple guy came true. Yeah. Well, 70 ticks is 70 ticks, you know. I got out of the meaning. If you still hold on to that, you're in. Should have just put it below the daily open, but should have would have. Win-win's a win, either way. That was pretty nice, though. I didn't hear him until like a little bit after the open. He didn't say anything. I guess he was getting some food or something. Oh man, sorry to hear that. Yeah, I kind of messed up the top step eval though. That got kind of wrecked. I'm not gonna lie about that. It was too nice too. I should have just left it alone. We've all been there though. Is that an aroused bite of it? Oh, snap. Let me change that then. I thought I had a worry face. This one. How about that one? That's the weary. It says weary. Well, no, I definitely don't take pleasure in people messing up, though. Unless it's like damage trades or something. That was a pretty nice trade. I wish it was like I didn't get spooked out. But it's like engineered that way. Like it comes back to make to 303 and then like just like psych. It's like I'm strong. No, I'm weak. I'm actually strong. Hit the 382. There's a volume imbalance over here. Sometimes local corner when it's like when the price is going that fast, like when it was going up and then going down like in that whole fashion, like that's when I messed up the whole the top step eval, and then when it started to like slow down, give me more accurate read, that's when I took that trade just now on my apex, and then that was good. So it's like sometimes the speed of Nasdaq is too fast to like, if you're in the zone of it, like Dave was on the short, then it works in your favor. But if you're not, then it puts you full tilt in like 2 minutes. If you're not able to like take a breather. Nice. static and echo. Thanks, I'll fix that. Test. Better? All right. $200. We're back at settlement. That's also probably a reason that it's sputtering, but just grabbed about 500 in buy side. Yeah, letting like kind of like there's times where it comes like I've gotten profit and then it comes back and then goes against me and then hits my stop and then I'm like I should have taken the profit and then like yeah, there's certain triggers that each person might have. Mine is like if I don't take the profit when it happens or something, then that like festers in my mind and then brings like a bad characteristic out. So I always have it like where it peels one off if it goes the way I'm seeing it, you know? But I should probably have the runner not go break even so quickly because they do have those like fake outs, you know what I mean? That was really weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why it's like on my screen you have this like the technical analysis side of things is like the minimal part of the trio. You know, it's an inverse pyramid that everyone thinks that the top is technical analysis, but it's the bottom. It's patience and risk management that's the most important. Right. It's like enduring. We're taught to be enduring things, and then you think that that endurance kind of like, but it's like persevering through the pain, like that's the type of like thing that humans are good at, like carrying their cross and the burden of like feeling that, you know. But right. Well, it is a textbook in some sense. Yeah, I had that same experience with Bitcoin in the beginning. Like I have this this bad memory where on a Sunday I was trading it, and then I was up on a short like 600 plus bucks, and then I was hanging laundry and I was like, I should trim here and put the stop at break even or whatever. And I was like, no, this could run. And then after I finished hanging the laundry, it was negative. And then I was going with my kids somewhere for the day, and then it was like the whole day was negative, and it kept diverting my attention away, you know, because it was positive, and then I let it turn negative or whatever. So I was like, yeah. I sometimes have like there's like moments where I'm hanging the laundry and it like triggers that feeling or whatever. I'm like I'm like, oh, I remember doing this before, like a deja vu where I'm like, oh man. Well, it's like the sun has to be right in the right place, and you know, the smell in the air. But it's like you get numb to it after a time. Like I like don't I mean I guess it's good and bad, but like there's a time where you can build up like scar tissue to the idea. There's that whole 90-90-90 rule too, where like in 90% of traders lose 90% of their money in 90 days. So if you can get past that window, then you're better than most. Yeah, like the whole overnight thing, like yeah, I've been there. Like there's this funny picture. Let me see if I can find it. It's on my phone. I'll be right back because it's worth posting. It's hilarious. All right, let's see. Let me find that picture. Here we go. You're gonna laugh. Just you don't hear. Were you in the process and you didn't fail it yet or whatever? That happened one time where oh, that's cool. Right. Kind of holding some volume point of controls here. We could go up to the mid from last week again. I don't know. We're basically at settlement. There's a bunch of resting liquidity at 59.20 on ES. Looks like it could get swept up. Another resting order at yeah, it's settlement, so it's kind of like, you know, it's idiot box galore. Oh, speak of the devil. Would you? I hear Tio talking, but it's very muted. Ah, maybe. Do do do. You said deeper. Okay, so yeah, we're just kind of like generating sell side and buy side here. I don't really see anything clear. I mean, technically we're negative 3K in sell side aggression with this giant push up. So what does that mean exactly? Like, are the sellers not having any follow through? Are they positioning for a weekly short? There's a 111 seller from way back when. Sorry, I was talking when you were talking. I couldn't hear you so well. Boop, boop, boop. What were you saying? Did he mute himself? No. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so like earlier I was looking at when I took that trade, like you can go back to that moment when I circled this guy. And then I was like, and then it went down and started to reward this 100 seller, and then it came back on them. And I was like, if it's flirting with punishing them, I'll take that theory to go long off the volume point of control. And then it stayed around there for like a couple trades, and I was in it, and I was like, I don't know what it's gonna do. And then it went boom, and then like it came back and stopped me out, but I got like 70 ticks on my first one. And if I had just kept my original stop loss, I would have been up massive. But that theory of seeing like a participant who's large enter, and then are they going to get rewarded or punished? And you ask yourself that, and then you see what it does after they enter, and then it flirts with paying them, but then it doesn't. And then if it's not paying them, what's it going to do? It's going to punish them. And then so even though I'm not like, I don't have a bias, I'll take that player's intention and use it against them or with them. If like earlier in the session, I was also at the beginning of the stream, I was talking to somebody else who asked a question, and I said, where was it? There was like a seller that hit down here, and then it was like a 200 seller, and I was like, if it starts to bounce off that guy, then you could theoretically take a long. And then it went boom right as I was talking about that theoretical long, and then it went up. So it's like watching those players get hit is what I use, like almost, that's one of the core ingredients. So yeah, and then I have this dead center for the TO stuff for just like context to make it plain or whatever. And then I have other stuff too. But Yeah, no problem. It's and like, you know, I like right now it's hitting a bunch of buyers as it comes up here, and that's contextually that's most likely not a breakout trader. That's a bunch of stops on sellers that shorted down below here. And so you're watching them pop some shorts and then they're passively selling into them. And so that's why on my screen I do like a lot of this, like, you know, whale stuff where I have like the whales like kind of passively eating the stops of these little guppies that played in the middle, you know. And it's kind of like you watch that over and over again. Like on the tops you see a lot of buys hit, and then on bottoms you see a lot of sellers hit, and it's just like a rinse and repeat. Like every bottom has a bunch of sellers and every top has a bunch of buyers. And it's not really, it's not people buying, it's their liquidation of having to forcibly buy, you know, getting a margin call or whatever. And so you so now go for it. I watched a bunch of stuff over the years. It was years and years of stuff, but it started with like Bitcoin. So I'll just show you on my screen. I'll turn everything off and then show you this one that I used for free that was API connected to Bitcoin, that I was kind of like, that's where I got my first things with it. Is like Bitcoin had these liquidation levels, and they would show you who entered where. And then I got into this habit of like looking below the price for like the sellers, and then looking above for the buyers and stuff. And then I started getting into high block capital and a bunch of CVD and all that stuff, and I started getting into like not looking at the candles, but okay, theoretically, if a bunch of people went long, where would their stop losses be? And then it shows you like these are 100xers and where their stops would be, and then 50xers would be down here. And then like I used this other site called like v3.aggr.trade, and it would show actual like liquidations being hit. And then I would see all these like liquidations, and so I would see it hit and confirm it. And then I was like, I wanted more fidelity always, so I was like buying more tools for that with Bitcoin. And then yeah, so when I moved to Nasdaq, I was looking for like tools that did that, and I knew of Bookmap already. And then I started looking into footprints and like the CVD and volumetrics and stuff, and I've made my own like volume indicator that shows like bearish divergence on like money flow and stuff. Like you had this spiky money flow divergence before it burned off, but I wanted to always get more and more and more like clear picture, like. So I just started researching into like footprints and stuff, and then had a bunch of courses that I watched about it. If you shoot me a... Yeah, and then I'll just hook you up with a few video links or whatever. Right. Yeah, no worries. And it's yeah, it was it's always fascinating, because it's like it doesn't matter what you think is going to happen, because it's like it'll show you what's happening, and then, oh, okay, these buyers here are getting absorbed because it's coming below their entry, and it's like, okay, it's hitting some sellers, so the sellers are stepping into control, and it's like, it's not my opinion, it's what's happening. And then you just get used to seeing that, and then you're like, okay, there's a buyer that just stepped up, so there's some aggressive. And then even on my screen it's saying buyer absorption or sweep, and and so you use those for, like, you know, theories, to construct theories for where to, like, get out if your opinion or of what you're seeing, it gets invalidated. Where would it be invalid, kind of thing. Yeah, no problem. Have a good one. So we are at the value area high, and it's creating all these nodes where that first volume point of control that we bounced out of, and now this is the second. The value area high is like another node now that it's creating, as like we're essentially at like settlement too, so it's kind of like, yeah, everyone's just kind of like positioning themselves for the week ahead, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So it's like like this is another thing that I've gone over before, is like sometimes I'll see, this didn't happen today, but sometimes I'll see like a 200-300 player that hits, and like there was like last month or something 800, and they were like hitting 800 sells and 800 buys and stuff, and it's like I pay attention to those guys theoretically, like what happens weeks later, were they right? And a lot of times you look and it's like they were at like they went like, you know, 400 300 points in drawdown, but then afterwards it went like 1,600 points in their direction. So you're like, So it's like, oh, that's a hedge fund or a government or something. Right. So it's like when I see those things, I'm like, take note of this moment, you know, because I've seen it happen before. And it's like, I remember one time I tried to use the theory like, there's no way it's gonna, like, they have to be on the right side because of that number. And then it went against my theory. But then I was like, you know, 2 weeks later, it was like, again, it was like 1,600 points in their favor. So it's like, if you look at it as a swing trade, they're right. But they could, right. And at that size, like, they don't care if it's like 300 points, you know, give or take. They're not looking for exact sniper entries. They're just like, good enough for me. Right. Nope. And it's essentially, we're above 376 is settlement, so, you know, but we've just been going up and down in that range, creating this node. Nice. Yeah, they do that to make it inconvenient to not use their thing. Nice. Well, I am going to head off to La La Land because it's midnight here, so I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Yeah.